Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and for many of you, dear friends. In 30 days, more than 300 million EU citizens will take the polls in all 28 member states. They will go to the polls to elect a new European Parliament, to directly elect one of the 751 members of the European Parliament that will shape EU policies until 2019. Direct elections of the European Parliament have taken place since 1979. However, this time these elections are different. They are different because they are the very first elections that take place on the basis of the Treaty of Lisbon. And this treaty, which was agreed by all 28 EU member states, stipulates that the new European Parliament will elect the next president of the European Commission. This means that the next president will no longer be appointed by the governments of the member states, as it was the case in the past. He will be no longer the result of backroom deals amongst prime ministers, diplomats, and others. Instead, the next president of the Commission will be the result of an open election in the European Parliament plenary, in which he will have to unite a majority of the members of the European Parliament behind his candidacy, which means 376 members. It is true that the proposal for the next Commission President must still come from the European Council, who decides on this proposal by qualified majority, not by unanimity. In my view, this also makes a lot of sense, because next to the European Parliament, our member states are an important source of legitimacy in the European Union. Our Union is built both on our citizens and on our member states, and with their agreement, not against them. National governments must therefore be involved in the procedure leading to the appointment of the next President of the Commission. However, the European Council cannot propose just, that's my chairman. However, okay, you can, we'll change. However, the European Council cannot propose just anybody as Commission President. According to the treaty, heads of state and government will have to take account of the results of the European Parliament elections when making their proposal. They will thus have to be sure that the candidate they propose will be able to get a majority in the new European Parliament behind him. And they have to hold appropriate consultations before making their proposal, notably with the leading political groups in the European Parliament. The European Council thus cannot propose just anybody if they want to make sure that the new European Commission President will in the end get elected by the newly elected European Parliament. In short, the candidate of the political group that will be the strongest after the European Parliament elections will become the next Commission President. Anything else would make a mockery of the democratic process that is now explicitly foreseen in the treaty. It is against the background of this new democratic setting that I have accepted to become the lead candidate of the European People's Party for European Commission President, and to campaign across Europe for this office ahead of these European Parliament elections. I believe it is high time that the citizens see that the Commission is led by elected politicians and not by unelected bureaucrats. I believe that it is high time citizens see that the European Parliament's elections are not a sideshow, but that their vote in these elections really matters for the future direction that Europe will take in the next 5 years ahead. I believe that it is particularly important now, after Europe has been hit by the worst economic and financial crisis since the 1930s. A crisis that originated in the US, but that caused turmoil across the globe, including Europe. A crisis that saw more than 6 million people in Europe lose their jobs since 2008. A crisis during which we had to take unprecedented measures in Europe to prevent further damage to the well-being of our citizens, to stabilize our economies, and to keep our union together. To me, the crisis has made it more urgent than ever to reacquaint our citizens with the European project. During this crisis, support for the European project has fallen to historic lows. Today, only 29% of citizens believe that their voice counts in the European Union. While here in Belgium, 47% of citizens feel that they have a say in European affairs. This figure stands at just 13% in Greece. This is why I decided to be the EPP's candidate for Commission President to these European elections. Over the next 5 years, I want to work night and day. This has to be seen. Around the clock to get Europe out of this crisis. To make sure Europeans, notably young Europeans, get a decent job. Not a job, a decent job. And to heal the wounds that the crisis has inflicted upon our citizens and our whole continent over the past years. The crisis has divided Europe, north against south, east against west, and addition into an austerity camp versus a growth camp. I'm convinced that I have the experience to reunite Europe after this crisis. Within the EPP, I have been nominated as candidate for Commission presidency on a proposal from my own party in Luxembourg, which was quite normal and obvious, and in addition by the German Christian Democrats and the Neo-Democratia of Greece. This is to be of more than only symbolic importance. Over the next 5 years, I want to work for a Europe that finds acceptance both in Germany and in Greece and in all other European countries. I want to rebuild bridges where the crisis has destroyed them. As a Commission President, I will set myself 5 priorities. My first priority will be to put policies that create growth and jobs at the center of the policy agenda of the next Commission. As a key ingredient for this, we must create a digital single market for consumers and businesses, making use of the great opportunities of digital technologies which don't know any borders. To do so, we will need to have the courage to break down national silos in telecoms regulation, in copyright, data protection legislation, and in competition law. If we do this, we can ensure that European citizens can soon use their mobile phones across Europe without having to pay roaming charges. We can ensure that consumers can access music, movies, and sport events on their electronic devices wherever they are in Europe and regardless of borders. And we can generate 500 billion euro of additional growth in Europe in the course of the mandate of the next Commission, thereby creating hundreds of thousands of new jobs and a vibrant, knowledge-based society. I will work on this project from day one of my Commission. As a second priority, I want to reform and reorganize Europe's energy policy in a new European energy union. We need to pool our resources, combine our infrastructures, and unite our negotiating power vis-à-vis third countries. We need to diversify our energy sources and reduce the energy dependence of several of our member states. I want to keep our European energy market open to our neighbors. However, if the price for energy from the East becomes too expensive, either in commercial or in political terms, Europe should be able to switch very swiftly to other supply channels. We need to be able to reverse energy flows when necessary, and we need to strengthen the share of renewable energies on our continent. This is not only a matter of a responsible climate change policy, it is at the same time an industrial policy imperative if we still want to have affordable energy at our disposal in the medium term. I therefore want Europe's energy union to become the world's #1 in renewable energies. Third priority, under my presidency, the Commission will negotiate a reasonable and balanced trade agreement with the United States of America. It is anachronistic that in the 21st century, Europeans and Americans still impose custom duties on each other's products. This should be swiftly and fully abolished. I also believe that we can go a significant step further in recognizing each other's product standards or working towards transatlantic standards. However, as Commission President, I will also be very clear that I will not sacrifice Europe's safety, health, social and data protection standards on the altar of free trade. Notably, the safety of the food we eat and the protection of the personal data of Europeans will be a non-negotiable for me as Commission President. A fourth priority for me will be to continue with the reform of our monetary union and to do so with Europe's social dimension in mind. We have come a long way over the last 5 years. In 2008, when the crisis first hit us, we coordinated a so-called economic stimulus package worth 215 billion to protect jobs in Europe. And we topped this up with a growth package of a further 130 billion euro in 2012. We have new fiscal rules in place that have allowed our national governments to regain the trust of investors and to a large extent of their citizens. The Eurozone has created the European Stability Mechanism, a new solidarity mechanism to make sure that Eurozone countries never again become the fair game of the markets. And we have brought all 6,000 banks in the Eurozone under common European supervision and control, thereby ensuring that never again taxpayers will have to foot the bill for irresponsible speculation or irresponsible behavior. The result of these efforts now start to be seen. 5 years after the fall of Lehman Brothers, the European Union is back on track to growth. New jobs are being created as we speak. Take Spain as an example. Countries which were at the center of the storm are exiting their rescue program to stand again on their own feet, from Ireland to Portugal and Greece. I believe that in the next 5 years, we'll have to consolidate and complement the unprecedented measures we have taken during the crisis, to simplify them and to make them socially more legitimate. I see 3 main areas of change. First, we have to rebalance the relationship between elected politicians and the European Central Bank in the daily management of the Eurozone. I admire, and I used to work closely together with him, I admire what Mario Draghi has done to save the euro. However, he had to do so in a clearly exceptional situation. The ECB neither wants nor can govern the Eurozone. The Eurozone should instead be managed by the Commission and by the Eurogroup, which in my view should be shared by a full-time president. The responsibility of the Eurogroup includes issues related to the exchange rate. We should not forget this in case the euro exchange rate should increase further and become a problem for growth. We should also rebalance the way in which we grant conditional stability support to Eurozone countries in financial difficulties. I propose that in the future, any support and reform program goes not only through a fiscal sustainability assessment, but at the same time through a social impact assessment. The social effects of structural reforms need to be discussed in public. The European Commission could prepare such social impact assessments, and we would present them both in the European Parliament and to the national parliament of the countries in question. Many reforms are still necessary to stabilize Eurozone countries, but we should all take better care to ensure these reforms do not increase inequalities, but rather reduce them. My party, the EPP, believes in the social market economy. It is not compatible with the social market economy that in a crisis, ship owners and speculators become even richer, while pensioners no longer know how to pay for their daily needs. In this context, a targeted fiscal capacity at Eurozone level could be developed to work as a shock absorber if needed. Thirdly, I'm convinced that we have to strengthen the external projection of our monetary union. During the crisis, we have witnessed the important role played by the International Monetary Fund in several of our member states. To many of our citizens, the IMF appears to be an alien, rather ideology-driven force which does not take account of Europe's social model and European traditions. Most are unaware of the fact that Eurozone member states could be the majority shareholder of the IMF if they pooled their resources and votes in Washington. A proposal for a joint representation of the Eurozone in the IMF was already made by the Commission back in 1998, Commissioner Almunia, but this initiative was never followed up. Today, the treaty allows for the adoption of such a proposal by qualified majority by Eurozone countries, and no longer by unanimity. I believe it is high time that we move ahead with this proposal and strengthen the Eurozone's voice in the IMF, and as a Commission President, I will take care of this. The Euro must not only be stable on the inside, but also have a strong common voice on the global stage. A fifth and last priority for me as Commission President will be to give an answer to the British question. No reasonable politician can ignore the fact that during the next 5 years, we'll have to find solutions for the political concerns of the United Kingdom. We have to do this if we want to keep the UK within the European Union, which I would like to do as Commission President. I always liked the openness of the UK to the world, its sense for entrepreneurship and innovation, as well as its great sense for trade and diplomatic relations. And I believe that the UK is stronger in the European Union than outside, just like the European Union is stronger with the UK than without it. As Commission President, I will therefore work for a fair deal with Britain, a deal that accepts specificities of the United Kingdom in the European Union while allowing the Eurozone to integrate further. The UK will need to understand that in the Eurozone we need more Europe, not less. On the other hand, the other EU countries will have to accept that the UK will never participate in the Euro, even if we may regret this. We have to accept that the United Kingdom will not become a member of the Schengen area. And I'm also ready to accept that the UK will stay outside new European institutions such as the European Public Prosecutor's Office, meant to improve the fight against fraud in the European Union, but clearly rejected by the House of Commons and the House of Lords. We have to respect such clear positions of the British Parliament based on the British opt-out protocol. David Cameron has recently written down a number of further key demands in an article published in the Daily Telegraph. As Commission President, I will be ready to talk to him about these demands in a fair and reasonable manner. My red line in such talks would be the integrity of the single market and its four freedoms, and the possibility to have more Europe within the Eurozone to strengthen the single currency shared by so far 18 and soon 19 member states. But I have the impression that this is as important for Britain as it will be for the next President of the Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, in the next 30 days, I will tour the member states of the European Union to explain and elaborate on my political priorities as Commission President. I will not do this alone. I'm very grateful to YEP, that's the youth organization of the European People's Party, which will accompany and complement my busy campaign trail. My own campaign bus will be supported by 5 YEP buses, a bit smaller than my own bus, and all driven by teams of young EPP campaigners. Together, the YEP campaigners and I are covering all 28 member states of the Union by campaign events. During the campaign, I intend to listen a lot, because the political program of the next Commission will not be dictated. It will be developed and discussed together with the European public, different political parties, and after the elections, together with the European Parliament and the European Council. Because as a candidate of the European People's Party, I want the next Commission to be a Commission of the people, by the people, for the people. I'm therefore very open for views and suggestions. And I invite everybody to make use of the new website which my team is launching today to send me ideas, to give feedback, to suggest adjustments of the ideas I've already outlined. As said, as Commission President, I want to reunite Europe, and most important, I want to reunite the Europeans. And this will start with the way we'll develop the political program for the next Commission. Thank you so much for your intention and attention. And I'm now ready for questions. As Martin says, in all civilized languages, that clearly includes Luxembourgish. Thank you.
Voilà.
It's hot.
Yes, it's hot.
Mr. Juncker,
Yes, please.
From The Guardian,
Yeah.
just coming back on your point 5 about renegotiating some kind of new relationship with the United Kingdom and accommodating David Cameron's specificities as you described them. What would that entail? Does that require treaty opening? How do you reach that accommodation?
After having had a look into the lines David was drawing in a Telegraph edition weeks ago, my impression is that this accommodation wouldn't need any treaty changes. And as far as Britain is concerned, after having said that I want Britain to stay as an active and a proactive member of the European Union, I would like to add that, of course, we have to listen to Britain, but Britain and the British political society has to listen to the other member states. So we can find we can formulate answers to British requests if they are proposed in a formal way. But on the other hand, as far as mainly the Eurozone is concerned, Britain has to accept that we want to strengthen the Eurozone by adding new powers. I wouldn't say to Brussels, but to the Euro area.
Frage vom ORF.
Herr Juncker, wenn Sie eine Energieunion als eines Ihrer Ziele ansehen, wie wollen Sie verhindern, dass es in dieser Energieunion auch ein Revival der Atomkraft gibt? Und eine zweite Frage, wenn ich darf, in der Ostukraine bricht der ukrainische Staat zusammen. Die Verhandlungen in Genf haben nicht zu einer Entspannung geführt. was soll Europa jetzt gegenüber Russland tun?
Zu Ihrem ersten Punkt möchte ich sagen, dass der Energiemix eine Frage ist, die von den Nationalstaaten, von den Mitgliedstaaten selbst beantwortet werden muss. Die Europäische Union hat sich nie in die Details des Energiemixes eingemischt und das wird auch so bleiben. Wer auf Atomenergie setzt, kann dies unbeschadet der Haltung anderer Länder tun. Österreich ist gegen Nuklearenergie, Luxemburg im Übrigen auch. Luxemburg und Österreich oder Österreich und Luxemburg haben diesen gemeinsamen Standpunkt immer wieder vertreten, aber Energiemix ist ein national affair und das wird auch so bleiben. Was die Ostukraine anbelangt, gehöre ich zu denen, die sich enttäuscht zeigen müssen, nachdem die Genfer Vereinbarung nicht die Folgen vor Ort zeitigen, die man normalerweise hätte von diesen Vereinbarungen erwarten dürfen. Es wird Aufgabe der Europäischen Union sein, in ihren Direktgesprächen auch mit Russland darauf zu drängen, im Übrigen auch mit der Ukraine, dass dies geschieht, was in Genf vereinbart wurde.
Question from Reuters.
Hi.
Hi, from Reuters. On the point of your energy union, how long do you think it may take to realise this vision? And a second question concerning the manageability of a commission with now 28 commissioners and perhaps in the future even more. Is it necessary for there to be a concentration within the commission of a group within focused, for example, on the Eurozone or another way of managing this large group?
As concerns your first questions, I would like to say that, of course, we have to continue to prolong what the Barroso Commission has undertaken so far, mainly as far as renewables are concerned. But we have to strengthen this process. We have to step up the procedures underway. I don't know how many years this will take, but what is of paramount importance is that the new Commission, from the very first day of its taking office, will strengthen the whole process. We have learned at the margin and in the core of the Ukraine crisis that the dependency we have, mainly as far as Russia is concerned, is politically and economically unsound, and so we have to invest all our energies, all our talents, and the costs needed in a major change of our energy supply channels. This will be done. There is no other option available. Your second question related to the internal organization of the European Commission is inspiring me, but I'm not President of the Commission till now. It will happen later this year. We have a decision of the European Council stating that each and every member state should be represented by one commissioner in the executive institution of the European Union. So in the next 5 years, this cannot be changed, but I do think that we have to work on this, because I really do think, independently from sound national reasons which may exist to be represented in the European Commission, that a body of 28 is difficult to be presided with intelligence and with wisdom, because compromises very often are taking away from intelligence and from wisdom. So the Commission has to be structured in a different way as far as its internal way of functioning is concerned, and we have to rebuild the domains commissioners are responsible for, in the sense of a better and far-reaching efficiency. I don't think that we'll have during the next mandate more than 28 commissioners, because I'm part of the larger camp of those considering that we need an enlargement pause in order to put order in the European Union we have.
Question en français.
Oui. Bonjour.
Vous avez rappelé les conditions de l'élection du futur président de la Commission. Le président du Conseil et votre collègue de parti, M. Van Rompuy, reste apparemment d'un avis assez différent du vôtre. Il a répété récemment au journal allemand que, en gros, tout ça risquait de conduire à un conflit. De toute façon, c'était le Conseil qui, en dernier recours, déciderait. Comment vous analysez cette position?
J'ai lu les propos de Herman Van Rompuy et, à vrai dire, je ne vois pas une opposition flagrante entre ce que j'ai dit et ce que lui il a dit à la Süddeutsche Zeitung. Il est évident que le Conseil européen fera une proposition au Parlement européen après avoir consulté les groupes politiques les plus influents du Parlement. Comme le président de la Commission doit être élu, disposition du traité de Lisbonne, par le Parlement européen, le Conseil européen n'osera pas courir le risque de proposer un candidat dont il pourrait présupposer qu'il ne serait pas élu par une majorité des membres du Parlement européen. Donc tout cela ne m'inquiète guère. Le Conseil européen va scruter, analyser, interpréter les résultats des élections européennes et il décidera en sagesse. Je me suis souvent rapporté à la sagesse de M. Van Rompuy. Il ne me décevra pas cette fois-ci. Oui, bonjour.
Monsieur Juncker, il y a un certain nombre de théories qui circulent, de rumeurs, de théories, comme quoi vous n'êtes pas vraiment candidat à la présidence de la Commission européenne et que vous viseriez le Conseil européen, donc justement la place d'Herman Van Rompuy. Est-ce que vous pouvez dire aujourd'hui que votre seul et unique objectif, c'est la présidence de la Commission européenne et que vous n'accepterez aucun autre poste que celui-là?
Enfin, j'exclus tout à fait de chercher mon bonheur au Vatican. Là, je suis formel. Pour le reste, une rumeur n'est pas une théorie, mais parfois des théories savamment répandues peuvent donner lieu à des rumeurs. Moi, je suis candidat pour la présidence de la Commission. J'ai un penchant naturel, mais politiquement imposé depuis si longtemps, pour le masochisme. Mais ce penchant n'est pas un penchant, une tendance intégrale. Est-ce que vous croyez vraiment que je me soumettrai aux lois, aux contraintes, aux exigences d'une campagne européenne à mener dans tous les pays à l'échelle de l'Europe pour devenir président de la Commission si je n'avais pas l'intention de le devenir? Président du Conseil, je l'étais à 2 reprises. J'ai présidé le Conseil européen à 2 reprises, oui. J'ai présidé le Conseil des ministres à 5 reprises, budget, affaires sociales, ECOFIN. J'étais président de l'Eurogroupe, qui à un moment fut considéré comme le poste le plus important en Europe, raison pour laquelle je l'ai quitté. Et je veux devenir président de la Commission. Président du Conseil, je l'étais déjà. Et donc pourquoi est-ce que je me soumettrais à ces contraintes si je voulais devenir autre chose que ce à quoi j'aspire de toute ma volonté et de tout mon cœur. Parce que l'Europe est non seulement une affaire de volonté, c'est aussi une affaire de cœur. Et le Conseil tiendra compte du résultat des élections européennes, madame. Et si le PPE est le premier parti au Parlement européen, le Conseil ne peut pas échapper à la logique du suffrage universel. Pardon? Oui, bonjour. Ah, c'est la première fois que je vous vois assise. Non pas à genoux, mais assise.
Dites-moi, ma question est double, mais j'aimerais savoir, pour les gens du Sud, spécialement en Espagne,
Oui.
quel est le message pour tous ceux qui ont perdu le travail? Parce que nous, on comprend le changement institutionnel, mais là, et pendant la crise, il y a beaucoup de fois sur l'Europe qui a été perdue. J'aimerais savoir quel est votre message, une, et deux, j'aimerais savoir si vous croyez qu'à la fin des votes, le résultat en Allemagne peut avoir une influence décisive dans les choix finaux qui va être fait, cas échéant, où le résultat soit à niveau européen plus ou moins équitatif entre le PP et le Parti socialiste.
Enfin, je ne suis pas sûr que j'ai compris la deuxième question que vous venez de me poser, mais il est vrai que le suffrage universel tel qu'il s'exprimera en Allemagne ne manquera pas de produire son influence sur toutes les décisions, y compris de personnes qui seront prises par la suite. Mais le résultat des élections en Allemagne n'est pas plus important sur le plan des principes que le résultat des élections dans les 27 autres pays membres de l'Union européenne. Donc, il faudra que nous apportions au résultat des élections européennes un jugement plus large, œcuménique, où le résultat des uns ne l'emportera pas en termes de signification sur le résultat des autres. Pour ce qui est de votre première question, qui me tracasse, comme le chômage en Espagne, comme dans d'autres pays du Sud, a atteint des niveaux strictement inacceptables pour une économie sociale de marché, je voudrais dire, que la crise n'est pas terminée tant que ces niveaux exorbitants du chômage, qu'il faut bien qualifier de masse, n'auront pas été corrigés vers le bas. Je lis parfois que oui, la crise de l'euro est derrière nous. D'abord, il ne s'agissait pas d'une crise de l'euro, mais d'une crise de la dette publique dans certains États membres de la zone euro, mais que bien qu'il y ait accalmie sur les marchés, et bien qu'il y ait progrès en termes de croissance, la crise ne sera entièrement résorbée que si les hommes et les femmes, notamment en Europe du Sud, et notamment en Europe du Sud, les jeunes, auront retrouvé un emploi décent. Pas n'importe quel emploi, pas un emploi précaire, pas un emploi qui serait soumis aux lourdes exigences d'une flexibilité sans borne et sans gêne, mais un emploi décent qui leur permettra de vivre. Je voudrais dire aux Espagnols, alors que l'emploi redémarre en Espagne, l'Espagne a créé 16 000 emplois en mars, ce qui montre 16 000 emplois supplémentaires à les mettre en comparaison avec les pertes d'emplois que l'Espagne et que d'autres pays ont dû accuser a une signification faible, mais la signification, le message est que le marché de l'emploi, tout comme la croissance, tout comme l'accès au marché, redémarre dans les pays du Sud. Je voudrais dire aux Espagnols et surtout aux jeunes Espagnols que si l'Europe n'avait pas été présente lorsqu'il s'agissait d'apporter une réponse aux lourds problèmes bancaires qui existaient en Espagne, la situation serait autrement pire. Je sais très bien qu'on ne peut pas consoler quelqu'un qui n'a pas un emploi de lui dire, en lui disant que si l'Europe n'avait pas fait ce qu'elle avait fait, un plus grand nombre d'Espagnols seraient dans la situation de laquelle il voudrait, lui, sortir. Mais la solidarité européenne à l'égard de l'Espagne, le savoir-faire du gouvernement espagnol pour se défaire de la crise bancaire en Espagne montre, tout comme le redémarrage de l'emploi et le retour à la croissance, que les programmes que nous avons mis en place, notamment à l'égard de l'Espagne, déjà sont en train de produire des effets bénéfiques et ne manqueront pas de permettre à ces pays lourdement mis à l'épreuve de retrouver le chemin de la croissance et du bien-être.
Jean-Claude Juncker will be on the 12th of May in Spain. You may have seen a campaign trail outlined where you find the dates when he will be in which part of Europe.
I'm happy to attend this press conference because this is rich in information. Yes, bonjour.
Especially on the steps for choosing the next commission. Just to make something clear, since no party will have an absolute majority of seats in the European Parliament, do you think the president should be the one of the party with most MEPs, or the one of the party that is able to build this coalition of 376 MEPs? Are you afraid of facing a Luxembourg scenario at European level?
No.
If your
One has been sufficient.
If your opponent has one more MEP,
I'm of the opinion, as I told you earlier this week, I think, that the top candidate of the party having collected the largest and highest number of votes will be the next president of the Commission. Everyone is saying that, well, okay, this time this is not a decision to be made only amongst prime ministers in a dark room, but this is an open debate in European Parliament. I'm not inclined to believe that those who are not representing the first party in European Parliament would be inclined to organize intrigues. Not only an intrigue against the winner of the elections, but an intrigue against European democracy. This is a serious thing, and we have to respect the vote of the Europeans.
If I'm remembering this correctly, this new priority, you know, a more conciliatory tone towards the UK seems new to me. That hasn't been such a big thing in your previous appearances. Do you have any hope that the Tories will return to the EPP after the elections, or where is this coming from?
Not for 1 second would I be interested in that question.
Why not?
Because the EPP is fine like this. It's large enough, believe me.
Une question ici.
Pour revenir juste sur au-delà des critiques de M. Van Rompuy, du processus de désignation, M. Van Rompuy a aussi, j'ai l'impression, un procès en légitimité par rapport au pouvoir réel du Parlement européen. Quel est votre avis là-dessus?
Enfin, il y a dans l'interview que le président Van Rompuy a accordé à la Süddeutsche Zeitung une phrase qui m'a intrigué lorsqu'il a dit que oui, les Européens savent que les décisions sont prises par le Conseil européen et pas vraiment par le Parlement européen. C'est une lecture du traité qui manque d'analyse scientifique. Le Parlement européen a ses droits. Ces droits ont été co-signés dans les traités successifs. Le Parlement européen a gagné en importance depuis le traité de Maastricht jusqu'à celui de Lisbonne. Il faudra en tenir compte. De toute façon, le droit positif veut que la plupart des décisions à caractère législatif sont prises en coopération organisée entre le Conseil et le Parlement européen. Le Parlement européen est le législateur européen. Et donc on ne peut pas donner l'impression, parce que le Conseil européen déclenche un processus, que le Parlement européen ne serait pas partie au processus. Nous l'avons bien vu sur la surveillance bancaire. C'est le Parlement européen qui, enfin, en bout de piste, a imposé un certain nombre d'exigences qui furent les siennes. Donc, il ne faut pas organiser cette éternelle et donc ridicule compétition entre les institutions. Les compétences des institutions sont fixées par les dispositions afférentes des traités qu'on s'y tienne.
We have 4 last questions, and then we also end, but Mr. Juncker will be available for short questions outside.
That's another information.
Information agency in America about the EU. You mentioned before in this campaign that it should be put on pause. So can you clarify what you mean on this? And can you specifically say something about the Macedonian situation regarding its EU accession? Because 5 years in a row, this country received positive recommendations from the European Commission to start the negotiations to become EU member state, but the Council, because they need a consensus on the question, because of the does not allow this. So in this situation, the Commissioner for Environment Fuller mentioned that this is against the situation when the Commission is underestimated by the Council. So what will you do specifically on this question when you will become next president?
I was not suggesting that the enlargement negotiations should be put on hold. The negotiations have to go on, to go their way, but I'm of the opinion, like so many of my colleagues in the Council, in the Commission, in the Parliament, that there will be no new accession during the next 5 years, which clearly does not mean that the European perspective of countries like your own and the Western Balkan countries would be thrown away. That's not what I'm intending to say. I'm only saying that no new accession during the next 5 years, but negotiations, of course, have to go on.
Élodie Lamère de la
Bonjour.
Je voudrais savoir ce que vous pensez de l'idée suggérée par le commissaire Semeta de supprimer la règle de l'unanimité au Conseil pour les questions fiscales.
C'est une question qui m'intéresse depuis toujours. Nous avons pu prouver qu'en dépit de cette exigence de la règle de l'unanimité, beaucoup de progrès furent possibles en matière d'harmonisation fiscale. Rappelez-vous qu'en 1991, le Conseil ECOFIN a décidé l'harmonisation des taux de TVA et des accises. Rappelez-vous qu'en 1997, nous étions à même de nous mettre d'accord à l'unanimité sur un code de bonne conduite contre la concurrence fiscale nocive, que nous avons été à même de nous mettre d'accord à l'unanimité sur les règles de base concernant l'imposition de l'épargne en Europe, que nous sommes tombés d'accord pour élargir le champ d'application de la directive sur la fiscalité et l'épargne vers d'autres produits. Rappelez-vous que les pays, la Belgique, le Luxembourg et l'Autriche, qui maintenaient, suite à une décision du début des années 2000, un système de retenue à la source, alors que d'autres pays avaient choisi le système de l'échange automatique des informations, ont abandonné cette position, comme je l'avais annoncé pour mon pays en avril 2013. Donc l'unanimité, s'il y a une réelle volonté de faire, n'empêche pas les accords. Si demain nous devions, ce que je ne crois pas, procéder à une révision large et en profondeur des traités européens, la question évidemment sera réexaminée, mais croyez-moi, moi qui connais bien, non pas cette question, mais les champs de réaction des différents pays, vous n'aurez jamais l'unanimité pour abolir l'unanimité en matière fiscale. Même si le Luxembourg, parvenu à une sagesse qui me surprendrait, serait d'accord avec une telle disposition, vous verrez au Royaume-Uni, en Irlande et dans d'autres pays des réactions, disons, peu enclines à vous suivre dans votre raisonnement, si raisonnement il y avait.
Sorry, just to come back to your point 5 on the British question.
Yeah.
You say to my colleague that we don't expect the Conservatives to rejoin the EPP and that EPP is big enough. If the EPP wins this election and you become the next Commission President, the fact is that no one in Britain will have voted for you, will have been able to vote for you. Does that concern you, and what does that say about democracy?
That's a British democracy specificity. As the British Conservatives don't belong to the EPP, and as the British Labour don't support Mr. Schulz, we have to take into account the British voting result, but as the British are not offered the choice between Mr. Schulz and myself, is this my problem?
A last question from Heidi.
Mach ich aber gerne. Wer macht das dauernd, wenn es um mich geht? Also wieso sollte ich das lieber hin?
Vor welchen Eigenschaften von Martin Schulz haben Sie am meisten Angst jetzt?
Ich habe keine Angst vor Martin Schulz.
This concludes this very nicely. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your interest.